Right, guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday, the 14th of July. So, we're going to obviously break down the London session like we do, our intraday, and then obviously we'll go through anything macros related. Just to let you know, the macro software is currently down. It's not working at the moment, so I'm going to do a bit of work on that afterwards. And so it'll probably only take me about half an hour. But it seems to have a bug. So it's pulling in older data. So ignore it. Ignore it. But obviously, luckily I've been checking it every morning. And so yeah. Right. We'll obviously have a look at the economic calendar at the moment, but one thing we've got to identify at the moment, oil. Right, there's two things when this war is going on that we need to be looking at. One is oil. Let's have a look on daily here. Back in that danger zone above 80. Only just, but obviously we've had a lot of escalation. Um, so obviously that's one thing that we need to be aware of, is that, oil, is the driver, it's the main indicator because obviously it's a war over oil. Trump is claiming that he's got the Strait of Hormuz under control. Iran is claiming that they've got it under control. So there's been, escalation happening everywhere. So yeah, that's obviously why we've opened up, and obviously yields holding and driving the way they are. You saw yesterday driving higher. We obviously know that with obviously oil driving higher, yields driving higher. All right, so if you don't have the US 10Y chart up, I suggest having it. If you're new here, then US 10-year yields are the big money, all right, flying into the dollar. And obviously, you have big money flying in off of good confidence and off of bad confidence. So, obviously, there's going to be money flying into it at the moment because oil is flying high. Now, what is oil priced in? Oil is priced in US dollars. Naturally, higher oil, higher yields. What we should see is the dollar driving higher. I'm expecting it to break up to potentially 102 this week, but let's wait and see. I quite like that we've had a little bit of a pullback here. Let's have a look at how the trading session on the dollar has opened. Pretty slow, but obviously if you look at US yesterday, it was really slow. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting dollar to, yeah, potentially push up to this 101,500. It kind of has to with, yields driving up the way that they are, and also the oil driving up the way that that is too. And so that's kind of the overall outlook. If we're looking at yen here, yen with obviously high oil, it's one of the biggest importers of energy in the world. Oil is priced in dollars. We should see USD JPY break out higher. Yeah. All right. That's what we should see. However, we do need to be a little bit careful here because yeah, yen, there's been talks and talks and talks that they're obviously in intervention territory, which means everything in Japan that they buy in US dollars is getting a little bit expensive. So we do have to be aware that there could be these, crazy spikes to the downside. And obviously we've got to allow for that to happen. Pretty similar to yesterday morning, where we have had two big drives. The three if you include this one during Asia. So have we had our drives to the downside, and are we now going to creep up? I actually think we could potentially tap either this high here or this high here. However, you do, like I said, what obviously puts me off trading yen is that we do have these. It's got these drives. in it where it's trying to push down, but obviously it continues up higher. So I would imagine anywhere in this range is going to be our overall target for this week. We've just got to make sure that we time it in the right way. All right. So now let's go on to the economic calendar. So, we've obviously had good data coming out of China. We've had increased imports, increased exports. PPI, so inflation is lower than expected and lower than previous. That's this number here, so that's quite interesting, because obviously one of the pairs that we trade is AUD USD. China is obviously heavily linked with Aussie because they are key trade partners. So we'll wait and see what happens here. The only things that we've got to worry about other than that this afternoon, I'm not worried about Bailey's speech at all. It'll be ADP employment change. Now, employment in the US has been very, very up and down, and then we've got obviously inflation data, CPI, set to come in a lot lower than expected. So potentially been priced in. Remember, all these numbers here are priced in. All right, so if we do, miss, then we've got to kind of miss the big. Now, I'm expecting, remember this is for June. June was relatively, stable. So I'm expecting inflation to be slightly, lower. However, um, potentially, is it going to be as low as everyone's forecast? And also, what will the expectation be? Because we've had this escalation, which has only happened in the last week or two, and it's been pretty heavy. So I am interested in this. I do think it's the only thing today that's going to potentially impact the, markets, but it's not so much on the data. It's going to be on Kevin Walsh's expectation. Now, obviously, he's relatively new, so it isn't like Jerome Powell, where he was pretty easy to read. He's a little bit harder because he keeps his cards quite close to his chest. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens. So that being, said, all right, we have got strong yields. All right, we've got strong oil. Um, Dollar at the moment, if we look at it on the day, it's a tiny bit down, but we cannot ignore this big drive here. Yeah. All right, that was yesterday, and Friday had a test of this low here and a drive. And so if we think about from Friday here, we've gone from hundreds, 600 all the way up to 101, 300. So it's a big push to the upside here. So that is obviously one thing that we need to be aware of. So I obviously will be again, because of macros. I'm going to be trading with the dollar, in regards to that aspect. So AUD USD here, we obviously had a drive to the downside yesterday, nice candle engulfing. I'm going to take a bit of a punt on this one because I like the idea. One, we're in quite a clean trend. All right, if we're highlighting our trend here, right, we're in obviously quite a clean uh, downtrend here. Yes, I know that we've obviously had good data coming out of China. I'm expecting gold to kind of tail off today. All right, so I'm going to play this morning a little bit safer. I would like to do something like this here, but let's have a look. You can see all the resistance here slash support. So let's just highlight this 360. What would 350 be? And 450. That'll be something like this here. I actually quite like this here. Let's just obviously have a look at our daily. All right, if we look at the kind of average range on this, it's probably something like this one here. All right, so 39 pep 39 pips. That's quite a big range here. Well, we've not really moved up too much. So I'm probably going to raise this up a little bit. Let's go for 400. There we go. So I'm going to raise that up slightly because I want it to have a little bit more space. Yesterday morning as well, we got caught. And so I want to, oh, I've just moved that. There we go. Right. So that's what I'm kind of looking at here. All right. I'm going to put our sell position here. Let's have a look here. 12, I think, let's go for 25 and 50. Okay. So 25 pip stop, 50 pip TP. All right. That's kind of what we are looking at here. I do think this could potentially roll over. So I'm just going to mark up my things and then I will show you where we're going to put them today. So if we, one, two, three, and then one. There we go. Right. So stop, naturally is obviously up here. Yeah. All right. Pretty happy with that one. We've then got our entry three there. Let's make that yellow. Entry two there. That yellow. I will make this a bit clearer before I screenshot it. Ooh, there we go. Make that one yellow. Right, TP1. Let's have a look at this. TP1. So we want to obviously look back and kind of see obviously where we could potentially tap and obviously pull some stops to break even and also make sure that we are yeah, accurate. So I'm going to go with something like this one here. So I'm pretty happy there. That's my TP1. And then I'm just going to change this color. So that is AUD USD here. We're expecting just to drive to the upside, just to pit this Asian high. All right, just have a little fake out, but having that allocation that we could potentially push up slightly higher. All right, but macros are with us. Trend is with us too. So that's obviously one thing that I am looking at here. So if I copy and I'll put that in. All right, so let's just put this in. USD. So opportunity. There we go. Right, that is number one. Yeah. Let's now go to GBP USD. Is this clean? Is it not clean? We can again, I'll just highlight it so everyone can see. Trend is our friend here. Yeah. All right, so that's what we should expect. Now, a couple of things that we need to be aware of. We've got a level of support here, which I'm going to just highlight, and then I'm going to highlight this here as well. All right, that's obviously on a bit of a higher time frame. Asia was relatively small. Daily, look at that. We can't, not obviously buy, sell here. So I'm also going to highlight this here. So because I'm just curious to see what it looks like. Okay. I quite like that. So, right, let's just have a little look here. If we were to go for something like this, 650, that might not be tight enough. That's our problem. 600. I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to go 600. Let's do 700 here as well. So we're going to get rid of this. We're obviously aiming. I know here that where price has moved away. I just want to allow for a little bit of a pop up before we get our continuation. So if we were to target this one here, Hmm, let's go a little bit lower. So I think we're going to go for 250 and then 500 again. So 25 pip stop, and then a 50 pip TP. I do see this continuing to the downside. You know, we could probably be a little bit more aggressive, but I don't want to. I'd much rather, play this towards the, safer end. So that is obviously what we're looking at here. You just clone one, two, and one, two, three. There we go. Right. So we'll clone these, move these up. So that's our red. That's our SL, entry three. But hopefully we'll get lucky. I mean, we did pretty well yesterday. I know we closed majority at TP1, but I think pretty much everything carried on to TP2. Right, so I am going to have to put my TP here, all right, because I don't want to push it any further if we're going to take a bit of profit and pull some stops off. And so, you can see here price is driven down here, rejected three times, and then continued to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at here. Just move this one up slightly. There we go. Perfect. Right. That's what we are looking at here on GBP USD. So let me just put this there. Remember to get your questions ready. And then obviously we can um, opportunity. There we go. Remember to get your questions ready. Right, Euro. Euro I don't like. Let's just have one more look at USD JPY. Don't like the look of that either. I mean, the safer option here, we're going to go with it, is Euro. We've obviously had a nice little push up here. Again, can't argue. Trend here. All right. You can see here, potentially should be looking to drive to the downside. Even if we look at the daily, yeah, yesterday, it's hard to buy. From obviously after that daily. I'm going to highlight this low here. Mm, Boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at that. 8 hour, yeah, relatively, steady kind of Asian, session here. I might mark the Asian high up here as well because we want to be just above that. Right, there we go. 2 hourly. Let's now have a look here on the 2 hourly. So price could potentially drive into here. I went a bit too aggressive on Euro yesterday. So I don't want to make that mistake again. Go 950. Let's do something like this. I'm going to get rid of this. I quite like that. So we've still got to our target. We've still got another sort of, yeah, 10, 12 pips. So let's now drive this. I'm going to stick to obviously our plan of the day. I'm going to have 25 pip stops and 50 pip TP. All right, that's what we're kind of looking at here. I'm pretty happy with that. That's gotta, then push right up here. So we've already kind of moved, 19 pips. It's got to push up, yeah. Pretty much it's whole daily range, and I can't see anything drastic happening. So that's how I'm gonna set up Euro. Right. Look how quick we're getting through this now. There we go. Right, that's number one. I'll just do these ones first because they're yellow and it's easier. Number two and number three. There we go. Put this one at the top. Okay, we'll keep this one green. TP1. Let's have a look along the line here. I actually like it a little bit lower, potentially on the bottom of these wicks here. So let's do something like this. There we go. Look at that. Nice and easy. Right, remember to obviously to get your questions ready, and then obviously we'll go through it. But I'm pretty happy with this. Right. Okay, Euro USD sell opportunity. Opportunity. There we go. Right. So let's have a quick look at gold here. Right, I do see gold driving to the downside. It's just obviously, you want to have some key kind of levels here. Obviously, this one here is held very, very well. It's probably 30 actually, I think. Pretty key kind of, a level here that's holding. You want to also pretty much that Asian high, and then you also want to mark up the Asian low here. So those will be two kind of things that I'd have marked up right now. I wouldn't really bother with anything else. You could potentially have it overall levels somewhere around here. All right. But I do, see gold if obviously oil continues to pump, which it is, and obviously yields continue to pump, which they are, then yeah, gold should eventually start to tail off. And obviously if this escalation continues, then I do see gold coming back down and testing these lows here. And so, yeah, I'll keep you updated on that one. Anyone who wants to have a go at USD JPY, I'm obviously not going to post this, but oh, let's move that way. But yeah, I'd probably be looking to be safe. I'd want to drive down into this area here. So I'd want to be somewhere like 250 to maybe 150, something like that is what I would be looking at and potentially taking it up into these highs here, or these previous highs, following up with equaling, these highs here. So for anyone interested, that would be my setup. It would be very, very similar. So, because it works out about the same, it would be something like this. Would what I would be looking at on USD JPY. So yeah, right. Let's have a look. See if we've got any questions. Uh, right. Yeah, David, can you tell us what your two EMAs are again? Yeah, I've got the blue one is the 50 EMA and the yellow one is the 200. All right, so blue, if you just all I do is change this one, but remember, um, I'm using the EMAs as an added confluence. It's a confluence on the end, yeah. All right, so any indicators, you obviously need to need to use them as one of your end conferences. Greg, do you think DXY will drop this morning and rally later? It looks a bit weak at the moment. All right, we can't predict what's going to happen, but there's a reason why we don't enter, straight away. All right, because yes, we are allowing for price to come in to pump, but I trust the overall, macro and data expectation here. What picture is it painting? That obviously there's money flowing into the US dollar. All right. So if we've identified money is flowing in, why would we, then look to trade against it? So that's how you've got to look at it. But yeah. Does anyone have any more questions? Any more for any more? If not, we'll end it here and have a great morning. Let's, smash it, trade safe. And yeah, let's continue it because yesterday was huge, 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 huge. So let's uh, let's make sure that we continue it. So yeah, have a good one, team. Have a good one.